Hey, how's everyone doing today? This is Josh Noel with PremiumBeat, and in this After Effects tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a clean corporate intro. So if you produce any type of corporate videos, there's definitely going to be a time and place in your career where you're going to need to create a clean corporate intro. And there's a variety of different ways that you can do it, and I'm going to show you just a few techniques that you can implement in any type of corporate intro. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's create a new composition, and we'll just call this one Tut, and I'm using 1920 by 1080, and click OK. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a background. So go up to Layer, New, Solid, and it doesn't really matter what color you pick because we're going to use a gradient ramp, and I'll call this Layer Background. So I believe the first thing that you should usually do when you do a logo animation is to import your logo. And also what I suggest doing, go ahead and pre-compose that composition. So make sure all your layers are selected, go to Layer, Pre-compose, and you call this one Logo Placeholder. And I highly suggest that you do pre-compose your logo layer just in case you want to use this as a template moving forward, or if you need to add like a slogan, all that animation is going to be intact and you can update it just by a click of a button. So let's go here to our background layer. Let's go to Effect, Generate, and let's add the Gradient Ramp effect. And we're going to set this to a radial ramp. And we're going to set the start color to the middle of our composition. And I want to set the start color to white. And we're going to go to the end color, and we're going to want to select like a very light blue sort of outline like this, and we'll click OK. And if you want, we can select the end of ramp, and we can just increase the Y here so we can make this gradient even larger. So this will create us a little bit of color contrast in the background. So once you have your logo and your background here, there's a lot of things that we can do, but I think the best thing to work on is to work on your logo animation. So what we're going to do for our logo animation is split it up into different segments and animate them separately. So what we can do to do this animation is grab the pen tool, and what I suggest doing is to make sure that you give yourself a little bit more room on the outside here, just in case you want to scale up your logo a little bit later. But what we're going to do is create this very nice tilted rectangle mask like this. And now what we want to do is duplicate this layer by going up to Edit, Duplicate, and we'll hit M on our keyboard for mask, and we'll select the mask layer here. And what we'll do is we'll grab the left outside points and drag them out over here like so. Now we have a separate mask like this, and that's looking cool. And then once again, we'll duplicate this new layer, go to the mask, we'll select the two outside points on the left side and bring them over to this side. So now we have our complete logo masked out, and what we're going to do from here is we're going to position keyframe everything. So go ahead and select all your layers, hit P on your keyboard for position, add a keyframe for position, and move these keyframes forward in time until maybe like 2 seconds. And then let's come over here and go to the Y position and start offsetting these animations. So you don't have to go all the way outside of the composition, but we'll go ahead and just continue to offset these like this. So now we have this broken up animation. It comes on all at the same time. I don't suggest that, but let's go ahead and make all the last keyframes easy ease keyframes, and we'll start offsetting these just by touch the keyframes, just so they don't look like they come on at the same time. I want to zoom in here really quick, and you can see that we have some breaks in the logo because the masks are canceling each other out. So what we can do to easily fix this is we can duplicate the placeholder, and we can hit M on our keyboard, delete the mask, and go to the position. Go ahead and just set the endpoint all the way to the last keyframe here. So basically what will happen is that this logo will just cut out all the creases and no one will notice it. So that's great. That's a good easy fix if there's any issues with that. And now what we can do is select all of our logo layers here. Go ahead and go up to Layer, Pre-compose, and we can call this one Logo Animation. And we click OK. So now I want to be able to transition the text in without actually seeing it here, which is horrible, right? So let's go to the rectangle tool. So let's come over here and let's just draw out a big rectangle mask like this. And we'll do this, make sure that the top mask is right on top of our composition. So then we can duplicate our mask, and we can just bring this mask down all the way to the bottom of our comp, and everything will be in the same place. So then what we'll do is set both these masks to subtract. So now we have that. And that looks really nice. And if you want, you can of course feather the mask by a little bit if you want to do that. I don't really think we'll do that. And before we get too ahead of ourselves, go back into the last composition and turn on motion blur for these layers before we move on too far. So now what I like to do is start adding depth to this animation. So we have this very simple animation here, but it's kind of boring. There's not much going on. So I want to go ahead and start spicing this up a little bit. So what we can do is create a shadow. We'll go ahead and duplicate our logo layer here and go to the bottom layer, and we'll make this a 3D layer. And then we'll hit R on our keyboard for rotation, and we'll set the X rotation to about 90-ish degrees. And then we'll hit P on our keyboard for position and bring this down. And then we'll go up to Effect, Perspective, Drop Shadow. And we'll click on Shadow Only. And we'll increase the softness by a touch. And maybe turn up the opacity if you like. And set the distance to 0. And maybe we really want to increase the softness up there. And now we have this animated shadow that looks pretty much in there. And that looks really nice. So that was very easy. And let's add that nice linear light that goes across the text that you might see in a lot of commercials. So let's go to Effect, Generate, and we'll add the CC Light Sweep effect. And we have this nice little light that we have to animate across our text. So this puts more emphasis on what the audience should look at. So we'll go ahead and set this point to be off the logo at the beginning here. Let's go to maybe 2 seconds around that area, and we'll add a keyframe for center, and we'll go forward in time till the end of our animation around 5 seconds, and we'll animate this light sweep to go off our text. So now we have this very nice animation here. If you need to increase the intensity of it, you can go to edge intensity, raise that up. You can play with the sweep intensity. So there's a lot of parameters in this effect that you can really mess around with and perfect. I want to keep it that smooth. I like that. So the easiest way to create a lot of character is by adding lens flares. And we're going to add some lens flares to this composition, which you can download these project files. The link will be in the description. And I also invite you to check out the Radium pack from rocketstock.com, which is a full pack of 120 lens flare elements. And we'll be using just a couple of them in this tutorial. And of course you can download them, and we'll go ahead and bring them in right now. And these are 4K lens flares, so they'll work with 4K compositions. And you go ahead and scale these down since we're in a 1080 composition. What I'm going to do is click on toggle switch to modes until we see the blending mode, and I'm going to set the blending mode to screen for both our lens flares. And this way we'll be able to now see the lens flare on top of our work. And now we have a little bit more character in here of these lens flares, and we go ahead and offset these just by a touch. So we can have it on, throughout the duration of the animation. Okay, so now we have this. So now we have a lot of depth in here. But let's say the client wants you to do a subtitle. So what you can do easily is to type out your subtitle, and we can place this right in the center of our composition if we want, and we can place this right below our logo. So now we've done all this great work, but now we have to animate our subtitle. And we want to stay with the theme of the video. So I went ahead and made a custom lens flare from Optical Flares, which you can download it in the description below, just this little element. And we'll bring it into here. And now we have this lens flare. And let's say we want the title to come on at around 2 seconds or so. So what we can do is set the blend mode of the flare to screen as well. So that'll blend in there. And then we'll go to our title, and we'll go to the rectangle tool, and we'll create this mask around our title like so. And we see that this lens flare goes from left to right on our composition here. So what we can do is go to the mask path for our logo layer here. Close this up right behind the lens flare, like so. And we can move forward in time to the end of the lens flare animation, which will be right over here. And we just basically follow the lens flare from mask to mask here. So you can see that the text animation will be revealed on as the lens flare moves forward. So you might have to just continue to mess with the keyframes just by a little bit to mash it up correctly, and then hit F on your keyboard for mask feather and increase the mask feather just by a little bit so it blends very nicely together. So now we have all these nice elements in here that put emphasis on, hey, this is a clean corporate intro. However, the logo and the subtitle are just going to be stationary, and that's just not flattering. It's kind of boring. So what we can do is go to Layer, New, Null Object, and we can select the subtitle and both of the logo layers, the shadow and the logo, and parent it to the null object by grabbing the pick whip. And now what we can do is go to the beginning of our composition, hit S on keyboard for scale, add a keyframe for scale, go to the end of our animation, which will be around maybe 512, and we'll come over here and we'll scale forward our logo, or you can even go backwards. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll set the scale to about 94%, and then we'll actually scale everything up just by a touch. Yeah, maybe we'll actually set the final scale back to 100%. So now we'll have like the scale from 107%, and it'll kind of, fall back into place, and we'll have this consistent, animation, and it'll look really nice. And to finish this up, let's go ahead and turn on motion blur for our logo layers and for our subtitle, and go ahead and we'll render out a preview. And after a quick render, this is what we have, and we have our nice, clean, quick corporate intro that gets to the point. If you're in the need for royalty-free music, we have a huge library full of great music for your projects. And once again, thank you for watching this video, and this has been Joshua Noel from PremiumBeat.com.